just run into the need for a program that, according to my assistant, does not exist. And so here's an idea for any coder that I think this is a great service and a great money-making project that is needed in many areas of relationship and business. So an email organizer on the web. So here's the problem, first of all. I have 20 different people in an organization that I have correspondence with, and this correspondence takes place over time. And there are patterns that emerge within an organization when you see the communication as a whole that you can't see in a single email. And as a way of illuminating those patterns, it's very useful to lay everything out by person and by date. And so the program that doesn't exist that needs to exist is the following. I launch the program. I select the contacts from my email folder list that I want to import into the program, 1. 2, I optionally select the date range. And 3, I pick the font and background of the website, very cursory thing. And I have a few other questions like, do the email addresses show or not? And then I click one or all of the following. 1, publish by person, organized by person. 2, publish by date. 3, publish by subject. Now, for each check mark on that publishing thing, there is when you click publish, there's a separate web matrix, or it can be formed into, a common page where at the top you do by person, by subject, by date, and those 2 tabs open the same emails organized in different ways. Now, when you organize it by date, for example, and you can also show the order, the order in this. So it can be by person, then by subject, then by date. But let's take the date version. So every email back and forth, starting from the original to the end, in a kind of a lineal book sequence, would be organized. If it's grouped by subject or by person, it can also have a hyperlink per date so that you can click through by date or keep, with the focus being grouped by person or just by subject. When you have these 3 tabs at the website that are automatically generated, you can siphon through very quickly what's happening by person, what's happening by subject, what's happening by date. Once the website is generated, you can either affiliate it by a domain if it's more of a public discussion, or you can keep it, a very long abstract web address if you want it to be more private. 2, you can then introduce, pick out of an email list and ad list who's invited to view the correspondence web, the web page, the email back and forth that's been turned into a website, and you can then invite, and the people who have been invited, you can click, is this an editor or just a viewer? So you can distinguish between those viewing. And those who are entering with editing and or comment authority, every email has a little tab at the side of it, which has a microphone, a video symbol, and a text symbol. And it knows you've signed in, so it knows who you are. And you can highlight and comment on any passage of the email. So as I'm reviewing with an editor, I right-clicked to comment on a section. Once it's highlighted, the icon pops up for the audio, the video, the note-taking. And then it is, I make my comment about that, and then that gets saved, connected with the document, such that one can do one of two things. You can either use different color highlighting, so that every person has a highlighted color or a number. And you can then see the document with all the different overlaid highlights. Or you can click by person. I want to see what this person thought in response to this. So I click that, and it guides me through all of the annotations and comments by this person. And then when I click another name, it guides me through the web page with all of the annotations by another person, simply by, in sequence, by date, inviting me to jump to the highlights and commented response by each person. And if that's an audio message, a text message, or a video message, that's what plays, and that's what stores to the website. The video is not all that important, but it is important as an option for people to make gestures. What this allows is, first of all, it creates publishing the document from a multi-hour, somewhat skilled task into a completely unskilled matter of minutes, number one. Number two, it creates a visceral dialogue and engagement with every editor. And number three, it becomes a permanent document where people can understand how decisions were made and what views, because what you learn about the editors, so for example, if you have 100 emails to 500 emails from different groups, and someone's reading through and they only comment on this, and they only comment on that, and they only comment on this, you learn where that person is focused on. And then you secondly learn their view. And when this is published transparently, think of it in terms of a board meeting at a company around an important decision to acquire a company or not acquire a company. Think of it in terms of a record on developing protocols for a school. Like, should we be having a protocol of no Coca-Cola, etc., sold on the premises because it's high sugar, or should we have a premises of free choice? And the different debates are listed permanently so that we understand why a decision was generated. And you can also code on an editorial level working assumptions. So once the emails are posted, etc., or there could be a core document that is emailed about, and you can build this dynamically meaning every email gets published automatically on the website simply by responding within the system as opposed to just an email client in a way that highlights not only what the decision is, but the values, the thought process behind the decision, the underlying assumptions, because this allows a fluid and graceful way to remake decisions as new evidence come to light. In other words, if the hypothesis is that we should do this because should be producing this result, and someone says, well, how do you know? And they say, well, this data. And you say, well, when would we see results by? And they say, well, we should see results of this by, September 2014. Well, then come, December 2014, you would then be able to go back into the space and be able to see is that measuring up with the data, which can then be forwarded back to the group and saying, look, we made this decision based on this person saying this, and we should see dates right here. We agreed that this isn't happening, and that whole thing is transparent, and then it pivots. And this remains public, ideally, in healthy leadership, so that, like in a town, you understand, like in the city of San Rafael, why is it that we've passed a law that bans homeless people sleeping in their car? What was the goal? What's the actual result? What are the costs? And you can bring the important stakeholders to the conversation. That's the idea, and I would love to use such software.